So to start with, when you log into the system, you'll land on our new home page here, just to the left of process. In the past versions, you landed on process definition. And this new home page consists of 3 areas: my charts, my alerts, and some general announcements of interest along the bottom here, including links to relevant events and so forth. So I'm going to start out with my charts. And this is where you can set up your charts one time and publish them so that they're all available right from the My Charts on home page, rather than going into analytics and clicking on them one at a time and configuring them. So when you first log in, you don't have any charts available, so I can click on this link, and there's 4 simple steps to set up and subscribe to your charts. And I'll get started by clicking right on the link here for the individual's chart. So that takes me to the individual's control chart. And as before, I can go in here and select the parameters of interest. So I'll select osmolality to start with. And what you'll see is a new icon next to the download icon that was there before, and this allows you to subscribe to the charts. If I click on that, that will make it available in the home page. And I'll go to the next chart. It's glucose feed time. The next one is duration. Another new enhancement this release is the ability to select the specification limits. If I go to display options, as before, I have the option to turn on spec limit 1, 2, and 3, but we have a drop-down now, so spec limit 1 isn't always a fixed spec limit name. So if you want for a given chart to have a different spec limit name, for example, the normal operating range, you can do that, and you're not limited to the first 3. So you can do that for each of the spec limits. I'll save that. So here's my normal operating range, and then I'll publish that. And next chart I'll publish here is my process temperature. So I have those 3 charts. Now I can go back to my home page and open up my charts, and here are the charts of interest. So you can click on them one at a time here, and if you want to unsubscribe, that can be easily done by clicking on that star right from here, and that will remove it from your favorite charts here. And when you're looking at a chart, if you want to go in there and change anything about it, you can click on it, and again, it takes you back to the analytics area. You can make whatever changes you want, and then click on the star again, and that will allow you to overwrite what you've saved earlier. So while I'm here, I'd like to talk about the next major new feature in this release, and that's automated email alert, which allows you to do monitoring by exception. So that's a big time saver, so you don't have to go in here and go through all the charts one by one to see whatever new alerts might be, or even wait for a daily job to run to create these new alerts. So when a parameter value is approved, it can generate a background process to evaluate if there are any rule violations or specification limit violations, store that information to a database, and send emails to whoever has subscribed to those alerts. And from this chart, you can also see if alerts were generated for any given point, and that's in that drill down that we've had available before. So you'd look for the presence of this alerts tab, and if you see that, that means there have been alerts generated. So in this instance, I have 2 alerts that were generated actually yesterday. I have a Nelson Rule 3 violation as well as a Nelson Rule 1 violation. So that information is available here, and it's also available from the batch data entry area by clicking on that parameter inspector eyeball. So the next thing to discuss is how these alerts are set up, and that's done in a centralized manner by a user with the role of parameter manager. And that parameter manager would go into the process definition area And as you recall, this is really the foundation for all three of our modules. It really ties everything together, and a parameter manager is responsible for setting this up and maintaining it. And it's really a kind of an outline process, unit operations, phases, and subphases. In some cases, we have tables of parameters that could be replicated or continuous. Here are some time series results for offline samples. And then in the process subphase here is the temperature parameter that I was just looking at in the control chart. If I click on that, you'll see in this flyout there's two new tabs here. So the first tab is the definition tab, and that has all the same information as before. But we also have an analytics tab now. And here's where you can select the rule set you want to use, what rules you want to apply. Here I have the first three selected, and you can select the limit method. And of course, this looks a lot like the display options in the tool itself. In this case, I have target mean plus or minus and target standard deviations. You can select the standard deviation method. And as in the analytics area, we have a drop down to select what spec limits you want to apply to this parameter. This can vary from parameter to parameter, of course, so that's why this is set up at a parameter level. So this the configuration, and then on Alerts tab, this is where you can toggle this on and activate the alerts for this parameter. And that's what makes it do this evaluation in the background when a result is approved. There's some additional information here. While I'm in the process definition area, I'd just like to real quickly point out one other enhancement that we've made here, and that's the option to reset aliases. So when you're building out this process definition, a lot of times some of the steps are very similar. And if you copy and paste them at the same level, for example, it's UFDF1, I'm going to copy that and paste it at the same level, and it's going to put in a copy after the name, since these names have to be unique. And what that'll do is not just the name here, UFDF1 copy, but in each of these parameters, when it automatically builds the query alias, it puts that copy in there, which you may not want. So we added an option at the unit operation level. If I go in here to edit that, we have an option to reset the query aliases. And so I can change the name to UFDF2, for example, and it'll ask me, it'll just verify that I'm going to be resetting all the query aliases within that unit operation. And so it not only changes the node name, but it also changes the query aliases for all the parameters inside here. So that's a time saver, so you don't have to do those one by one. So the last part of the automated alerting then is to subscribe to these alerts. So each user would go in here in the My Alerts area. I don't have any set up right now. I'll click on the Getting Started here, and I'll see a list of all the products that I have access to here. And I just set up an alert for a parameter in the Cambridge ANAB unit operation. And here you can subscribe to all the unit operations for a product, or only those unit operations. You don't get spammed with too many emails of alerts. And here you can get just specification alerts and or run rule violation alerts. So you toggle those on, and now any new alerts in the future, I would receive emails, and the email would look something like this here, where it simply gives the site, the product, the batch, and the date, and the parameter name, and where it's at, and context of the process, and then the rule violation. And this could be individual control chart violations, or for an X-bar chart, and it could also include specification limit violations in this email. So that's the automated email alerts, a big new feature there. I think it's big time saver. Next thing I'll look at is in the analytics area, we have the continuous line plots. So you can look at intra-batch data, and here you specify again how many batches. I'll look at the last 10 batches. And the chart type, I'll start with a parameter chart type. And in this parameter selector, it'll show me my continuous parameters. I'll select viable cell density to start with. So here it's showing me the last 10 batches for viable cell density. And you can see those in the legend here. And we have a tooltip that gives you more information about that. Down at the bottom, you can see the parameter I've selected here is VCD, and then I can just go from one parameter to the next within that table by clicking the next and previous chart buttons along the bottom here. The other option in the continuous line plots is to look at one batch at a time, but many different parameters. So I'll select a batch, and first parameter I was looking at here is BCD. I can select additional parameters, for example, PO2, viability, glucose, apply that. So now I see the 4 different continuous parameters for the last batch, which is prod 20 here. And I can go back and look at previous batches by, again, using these buttons down at the bottom here to navigate from batch to batch. So that pretty much wraps up all the major features I want to look at. And with that, I'll turn it over to David Brick, and we can look at some of the new query enhancements.
All right, thanks, Brent. Let me just share here. So on the query side of PIMS, we extended the features that we added in 3.1 from just querying discrete parameters to also being able to query parameters for replicate and continuous tables. The query definition side and all of that works the same as it did in 3.1, with the exception of removing a restriction that only one row is returned. So we can now return multiple rows from queries. What I wanted to look at as we go through this is how we set up query in PIMS, and look at that first with a continuous table, this samples table here. You'll see that it looks the same as any other table, but if I click on the TCC parameter and edit in here, I have the option to select the query parameter source and then to define the query that I'm using, or to select the query that I'm using, select the batch ID column. And in this case, because it's continuous, I need to select which column of the query will return my timestamp. So I've got that column selected, and then the parameter value column. And everything works the same in terms of setting those up as it did in 3.1. And again, I can test a query here. And now I'll see multiple results come back, and I can mark that as passed. Save that. And then if I want to do a replicate table, you can look at this materials table here. And one thing that you want to be aware of, the ID columns in here, this is a little bit awkward, but the parameter source for the ID columns needs to be data entry. When you set up an ID column, you will not have a choice of queried. So you'll just set those to be data entry. But then when you actually configure a parameter to query, you will select the material lot and material name columns from the query to assign to that data. So it will actually come back from the query even though it's labeled as data entry. So switching over to the batches to look at how these queries are run, I'm going to create a new batch in the prod step. and today is the batch date. One additional thing you'll notice in here as I assign a parent batch, I can enter that batch number and the amount as we could before, but now we've added an option to select the unit operation for the parent batch. So if I have process steps that are skipped, it makes it easy to map where this data came from. And then when you query that data out on the other side, we've added a view in the external data access module to be able to retrieve parent batches and genealogy from PIMS. Save that. And just like with discrete parameters, I've got an icon to run queries. I click on that. I have an option to go in and see the details of which queries are running. And you'll see here that it's telling me it's added 7 values. If I rerun the query and the data has changed behind the scenes, it will tell me what's updated or what's been removed. But I can see those values there. And then if I click on materials, I can see that table and I can see my values in here. And if I save that and come back in to look at that in show mode, sometimes you will have a lot of data in these. So we have the ability to sort the columns. So if I wanted to find the minimum value or I wanted to sort by material name, I can sort here in show mode. The queries are limited to 100 rows. This is really intended for something where maybe you have daily samples or the input materials or things like that. For high frequency data where you'll have thousands of rows, that's a feature coming in an upcoming release. Chris?
Sure. David, before you get out of the system, can you go back to the dashboard real quick? I just wanted to point out a feature that we've added to this dashboard. You can see here at the bottom below the charts and alerts, there are boxes of information. We titled this announcement. So we'll be pushing information that we feel is valuable to our customers in these boxes, whether it be alerts on upcoming events or industry news, tips and tricks on different features within the application that will make your life easier. So wanted to just briefly comment on that. So thank you both, Brent and David. With that, we can go to questions. Let me see if we have any. We don't have any right now. So, so for all current Skyland customers, to schedule your PIMS upgrade, you can send an email to support@skylandanalytics.net, and our DevOps team will review and reach out to you directly to initiate that upgrade. For all of the attendees who are new to PIMS and would like a more sort of comprehensive look at the software, please feel free to reach out to engage@skylandanalytics.net. We'd love to give you a more in-depth demo and discuss the various benefits that PIMS can provide you.